West Virginia picked up commitments from two players of need on the defensive side of the football, and my friend Mountaineer Paul and I are going to talk about it. So pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and let's go. What is up, college sports fans, Big 12 fans, and fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? This is Couz, and welcome into another edition of Couz's Corner. Pull that chair up and let me serve you up a double shot of top shelf college football content. Here with me today, my good friend, my partner, Mountaineer Paul from Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. How you doing, Paul?
You're good as always, man. Thanks for having me on again.
Absolutely. We always enjoy working together. You guys, most of you probably already know, but Paul and I do a channel together called Hoops from the Hills, where we cover West Virginia Mountaineer basketball. So go check that channel out and give us a subscribe. Also, go to Paul's channel, Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. He's able to get a lot of interviews and a lot of conversations with recruits and things like that he'll share with you guys on his channel. So go check him out. He's getting really close to 1,000 subs. Let's get him over the hump. Go check out Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. So what we're going to talk about today is the two commitments that West Virginia got this past week from defensive players out of the transfer portal. Tyrin Bradley, a defensive lineman out of Abilene Christian, and Anthony Wilson, a defensive back out of Georgia Southern. So first, let's talk about Tyrin Bradley, Paul. I want to get your thoughts on this young man.
Yeah. I think West Virginia got in on him very early in the process. From people I've spoken to, had he stayed out there much longer, Power 5 offers were going to come. It was inevitable. He's got the size, and he flashes the ability on tape at 6'4", 255 pounds. Great twitch, great hands, shows great pass rushing skills and bend around the edge.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got all that. The one thing we don't know is how he's going to perform against a step up in competition.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the better offensive lines in the country in the Big 12 remains to be seen. But the package is all there. It all shows on tape. And this guy's either going to be, in my opinion, probably a major contributor, or he's not going to be much of anything. We'll see what happens.
Right. So it could go either way.
Could go either way.
Yeah. Yeah. The one concern I have, and obviously it's one thing probably all fans are going to have, and that's the fact that he's done it at the FCS level. West Virginia's been, they've had some success. They had some success with Charles Woods coming up from the FCS level, but then there's been other guys they've not had as much success with. So it is always a concern looking at it from a fan perspective. Can these guys have the same success at the Power 5 level that they saw in FCS? Maybe he's a diamond in the rough that his staff was just able to pinpoint and pick out. And like you said, he does stick out on tape. I was able to watch a little bit of tape, not as much as you have, but I did watch a little bit of it, and he does, man. He flies off the ball. He plays with good motor, and he can hit. He's a hitter. I really like his energy that he plays with and all that. So I do like that aspect of his game, and it's something we needed, especially at that bandit spot. We didn't have a lot of depth there. We do have Jared Bartlett coming back, and then we've got true freshman James Hurd, who may be able to contribute a little bit, but it's going to help to have more experienced guys at that position. It's my understanding that Bradley, he should have at least 2 to 3 years of eligibility to play for this team. So that's an even a big bright spot in my opinion, that he's got that much eligibility, because even if it doesn't pan out this year, he still has another year or two to grow in the system.
Right. And the fact that he went to FCS and then inside of one season was being looked at by even the lower group of 5 schools.
Mm-hmm.
It to me is a big sign that he was going to step in the right direction. I mean, the list of offers have Liberty, which is, here is at times played Power 5 level football. Teams like that have been really good here in the last few years. So to me, that was impressive. And I think, West Virginia being in the situation they have been in on the football side of things, where either they're conserving their money, or because you have to have so many players in football, maybe there's just not as much to go around, and you kind of have to identify players early.
Mm-hmm.
And take chances, when you don't have an enormous budget. Like I said, I'm speculating on that. I don't know that for sure. Maybe they're saving it for this last run up until fall. But that's the way it looks on the outside looking in up until now.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. And that's something you and I have been talking about off camera here. Real quick, guys, before I forget to mention it, go check Paul out on Twitter as well if you want to communicate with him at Paul Mountaineer. It's his channel name backwards. And then you can check me out on Twitter at Couz206 as well. All right, Paul, let's move over now to the defensive back, Anthony Wilson. I'm really excited about this young man. He's from Georgia Southern, which is an FBS program. 101 tackles from the safety spot last year with 1.5 sacks to go with it. Yeah. What stuck out to you about Anthony Wilson when you put the tape on?
He's an explosion waiting to happen, man. He hits. He's the thumper. He's as sure a tackler as we have on this roster now that he's a part of this roster. He's played well against elite Power 5 competition. Mm-hmm. So I really like this pickup. As you know, Couz, I'd been talking to him on and off since it was rumored he was coming on a visit. Mm-hmm. And I really got to like the kid just through texting. Obviously, haven't had any phone conversations with him, but really enjoyed my conversations with him. He's a delight to talk to. Really, really nice kid. Extremely smart. I think it's going to be a seamless transition for him to move up to the Power 5 level. You don't just add 101 tackles to your roster every day. I don't care what level it comes from, so you don't get 101 without being all over the field and having an incredible motor, which he does. He plays with a lot of emotion, and he is extremely stacked, man. He is just he's a muscle, and really interested to see where they're going to put him at. You could make a justification for Spear. You can make a justification for if he put on some weight, possibly even at will in some packages, passing situations. There's all kinds you can move a guy like that around. Think of how they use those kind of safeties in the NFL.
Right.
You think of a guy like Terrell Edmonds they use in pass. He's the guy that had like 5 or 6 sacks, mm-hmm. And he was a safety blitzing off the edge. You can use these guys in so many different situations.
Yeah. And he's, speaking of playing will, he's 5'10", 200, which would be small for a will, but in my opinion, based on looking at the tape, he looks like he would have the body type to put on more muscle and more weight if he needed to. So if he could get up to 215, 220, he might could play that will spot. My guess is they're probably going to put him at the Spear position or one of those safety spots back there because he did have a couple of interceptions in his career as well at Georgia Southern. So he can cover. I watched a little bit of film as well, and, he can cover the football. So don't sleep on his coverage skills. His tackling is kind of what jumps out at you on tape, and that's kind of what makes the headlines, but he can cover as well.
Yeah, and his motivation from my conversations with him were the coaching staff sold him on, hey, look, if you want to go up to the next level, you really need to put your coverage skills on tape at the higher level. Even though like you said, he played well in coverage spots, at Georgia Southern, they really moved him around to be more of a run gap, stop kind of player. Obviously, he did play in passing situations and played well, but his motivation was to do that at the higher level to prove that he was worthy of, all these accolades and things because he's a 3-time first-team Sun Belt player, and I think that's a lot of praise, and so I think he wants to do that. See if he can do that one level up.
Yeah. I don't blame the young man for wanting to do that. He's got a chance to, play when the lights are bright. He's got one of the toughest schedules in the country to play against this year. So he's got a chance to put that on tape against some really good competition and show those NFL scouts what he has. And I'm excited about it. I think he's a huge addition to this team. And I'm glad they were able to go out and pick him up. And we all know defensive back is a position of need. And at the very, very least, he's going to be an important depth piece on this team, which they need at that spot.
You can never have too many of them.
No, just like we said with Bradley at Bandit. They need more bodies there, and he's at the very least he's a body. I think he's more than that, but at the very least he's that. And Wilson, my understanding, based on looking at his years of experience, it looks like he is a senior, but because of the pandemic year, should have 2 years of eligibility remaining. Can you confirm that, or are you sure? Do you know?
From what I understand, he has 2 years left.
Okay, yeah, that's my understanding as well. So again, if things don't pan out for him this year, he has one more year to grow and gain experience in the program. And come 2024, if he doesn't have the success he wants in 2023, he still has 2024 as well that he can step up and put even more plays on tape and impress scouts in that regard. So everybody, I recommend, again, you go watch Paul's video on this young man. He kind of goes over some of the conversations he's had with him. It kind of gives you an inside look at this young man. So go check that out over on Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. Any other comments you want to make about either of these guys, Paul?
I think they're both extremely good fits. Don't, like I said with both on both videos, don't just look at the lower level thing. As far as fit goes and as far as body type goes, they both fit.
Yeah.
It's all about how do they react when the lights are the brightest. We're going to be in Happy Valley week 1. And when the speed is just obviously, let's say Anthony Wilson had to guard the best player on every FCS or every team Georgia Southern played against, not FCS.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all 11 are going to be like that at the Power 5 level.
Right.
So it is a step up for these guys.
Right. It is. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. And guys, there'll be more to come on this, hopefully. But West Virginia has even more visitors coming to campus this week from the defensive side of the ball, guys that will get you extremely excited. I'm sure Paul and/or I1 will have videos out on those guys at some point, whether about their visits or hopefully if we're able to land some of these guys, we'll be able to do videos about that as well. So stay tuned.
These are Power 5 guys.
Power 5 guys, yes. Power 5 guys that are visiting West Virginia this week is my understanding. So
SEC guys.
keep your eyes open for the videos on these guys. So Paul and I are both really excited about these guys that we're talking about. So stay tuned for more because it's coming. And guys, don't forget, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. Also, please go check out my friends over at Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. There's a link in the description box, or just go to blueridgecoffeecrafters.com. Their coffee is absolutely out of this world. I've got a bag of it myself to try. It's some of the best coffee I've ever had. It's less acidic than most other coffees. Tastes great, smooth. You won't regret it. And type Couz, COUZ' in the comments at checkout, and it'll help me out here on the channel. There's also other ways you can contribute in the description box. You can join the channel. You can hit the one-time heart thanks button there, make a one-time donation if you want to do that. With that being said, guys, once again, don't forget Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. Don't forget our Twitter handles. You can also check me out on Instagram at Couz's Corner 206. With that being said, we appreciate you tuning in to this episode of Couz's Corner, and until the next one, Q Country Roads.
West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home, country road.